Okay, there we go.
No, I can't see.
You turn it around and then you have to switch the camera.
Okay,
This is Jamie
wait a
Mayfield
minute.
and Sue Vaneski.
Switch it.
That one.
Okay.
Okay. Going live on Facebook for the Good Karma Farm first annual virtual Crankin because we are all flexible. It's like a Crankin scavenger hunt. Can you find me or can you not? Anyway, I'm going to just visit with you for a few minutes just to make sure that everybody can find what's going on and where we're doing this, and good luck with that. But that's okay because these videos, the Facebook videos, they are being captured on Facebook, so you'll be able to see them again later if you're running late. My glasses are filthy. Just kind of part of it, isn't it? I looked down a while ago and I was making some hats and I have oil all over my pants. That's part of it too. Little Dawn, the little peroxide, that's going to kill your arm. You're going to have to figure out somehow to rest it. So what we're going to be making is a hat. We're making this on a 72-36 at half pitch. Now, I have to tell you guys something. In yesterday's demo, somebody asked me, what is half pitch and why would you use it? And I said, oh, we'll talk about that tomorrow. And I never got back to answering the question. So what is half pitch? Is there anybody watching too? Good. Okay. So
51.
Okay, cool. So people are finding us. That's a good thing. Thank you guys for your patience. I know Jim and Amy are going crazy right now trying to figure out how to get everybody pointed in the right direction. It never fails. I don't know how many times I've been sitting there at SOC TV and getting ready to go live, and guess what? There's no internet. Guess what? Ron has to reboot his computer. It's what happens when you're doing things live like this. And I don't think Zoom expected we would have such a big crowd. But Jim and Amy, you guys are doing a phenomenal job, and I just want to thank you for hosting such a great event. So, on this project, to make an adult hat, you have 72 needles on the machine. Well, to get 72 needles to fit around the head, you're going to have bigger than worsted weight yarn. But, through the magic of what Miss Jenny Dieters discovered and found out, I believe she's the first one to have made this hat, and this is where I got the idea to make this hat. Now, over the years, we've kind of tweaked it and perfected it, and I have to be sure and go really slow so I remember all my tweaking and perfecting steps, because I've been tweaking and perfecting since I got here to Sue's, and I made these practice hats so that you guys wouldn't have to watch me run every stitch in the hat. Anyway, we'll get more to that later, but half pitch is using all of the cylinder needles and all of the ribber needles, okay? That's where you adjust the ribber dial. Well, I'll show you in a minute, but it's where you adjust the ribber dial, and that's this screw on this machine, or on a Gerhardt machine that would be adjusting underneath the ribber dial. And on the old Gerhardt machine, sometimes you had to put your pin, or your pin in the back. You'd have to turn your cylinder around to get it to knit at half pitch. Can I go get my iPad like we had it set up yesterday?
Well, the deal is all these messages block part of the screen, so I have to make sure I aim
But
it.
they're not blocking part. They can. Well, I don't know if they can or not.
People want to see that too, so
People want to see the messages too. You're right.
so I just got to keep the picture way up here.
But boy, you made me a nice little setup here. Wonder if I can watch myself live on my iPad. That would just be weird. Let's see what happens. Now you can adjust this and set it wherever you want
I
to.
just need it up high. There we go.
Okay.
Then I can get on top. There.
Let's see. Oh, look, it says I'm live.
You have 146.
Okay. Can everybody hear me okay? I'm a loudmouth, So what I've done is I'm casting on with every other needle in the cylinder. Okay, I can't watch that because that's like 10 seconds ago. Isn't that weird? All right. And now this time, because I'm at Sue's house, I have the right setup on it for the cylinder I'm using. You guys, if you know me, I'm kind of like fly by the seat of your pants. Sue's prepared. All right, let me get the rest of my loops cast on here. Now we're going to cast on with every other needle. Let's see, let me show you this one. What we're doing is we're making the top of the hat, okay? So we're going to cast on with every other needle. The reason we're doing that is because we don't want to have to gather up all the needles. We're trying to get less bulk at the top of the hat. All right, this is what it's going to look like when we're finished. Now, so I need to go several rows, and I have another example to show you of why you don't go 10 rows and start your project. Let's get all the needles open. This is why you don't go 10 rows and start your project, because, or this is like 5 rows and start the project. My stitches are running and I have to gather all these stitches up, so I'm going to have to be really careful and not get those, not drop those stitches when I gather them up. And I'll probably gather those up before I do anything else. So be sure and give yourself plenty of waste yarn at the beginning of the project. Now, I am going to go until the needle before the half mark, because that's the way this, you go until this one is almost closed. And I'm going to change yarn on this needle right here. My latch has gone closed. So what I want to do is be sure that both yarns knit.
Some late ones coming in. Want to know what cylinder you're on?
This is a 72 cylinder with a 36 rubber dial. The machine is a Laguerre 400. And I was going to tell you, to do this project, I came up here with the yarn, and it took me, I made probably 5 samples before I got my tension right in order to make a hat that would fit your head. So I sacrificed a piece of yarn, which I could actually knit up if I run out of yarn. I'm going to make a Franken hat out of all my leftovers of these yarns. But it took me a whole evening. The time that it took Hope to wind her warp for her project, I was sitting over here practicing and making a hat that would fit an adult size head. So it's worth it. You need to, you've got to, what, sample? Is that what you call it? Can't think of the right word. Sometimes I get so excited because I'm so worried about all the things I want to tell you that my words start jumbling up, and it's just because I get so excited when I get to teach people how to do something on a sock machine. So, back to the project. I have 2 needles that knit, okay? Now, I am going to engage the heel spring for 2 rows.
Swatch.
Swatch, that's the right word. And engage the heel spring for 2 rows. All right, stopping at 6 o'clock. I want to go ahead, well no, we'll keep it on, because what we're trying to do is draw that up tighter up top so that when we gather those stitches, we have a nice top that doesn't look all holy. So I'm going to start back over here at needle number 1, and I'm going to put my cylinder needles in. Now, you're probably wondering, so the first thing I did when I started my swatching was I put the machine as loose as it would go. and still knit comfortably. And I made my sample. And it was so loose I could have fit 2 heads in the hat when I was finished. So I started tightening my tension, and tightening my tension, and tightening my tension until I got the size that would fit nicely. So the thing of it is, if you make a hat with sock yarn and it's only 1 layer thick, it's not going to be a very warm hat. Okay? In fact, we make these kind of hats for chemo caps with 1 layer. And for that we use bamboo merino yarn. The yarn that I'm using here, I dyed the way Amy showed us this morning. I hand painted this yarn. The blank yarn is called Quarter Round, and it is merino and nylon, superwash merino and nylon, and it came from Wool to Die For. And I love it for hats because the merino just feels like heaven. So what I'm gonna do is I'm working this half of the cylinder. Now I'm gonna take the bar of the previous stitch, don't worry, you'll see it better when I get around to the other side, and I'm gonna crisscross it just like I would if I were adding in needles after I do a mock rib. So I want to hang the bar of the neighboring stitch on the empty needle so there won't be a big hole where I start knitting with every needle. It's not exactly easy to do when you only have a couple rows of yarn on the machine. I'm trying to do it to where you guys will be able to see. But remember, and I like this technique, I always stop here and work this half of the needles. Then I'm going to stop at midnight and work at this half of the needles, so I only have to crank forward 1 time during this process. So I've reached my half mark. I'm going to crank around to midnight. I still have my cylinder spring, or my heel spring engaged. Now I can install all these needles without, see, I can go over here, I can install that last needle without having to crank forward.
We're at 191.
Wow, that's cool. And we are coming to you live from Warrenton, Missouri. Again, for those of you just finding us, what we've done is we've cast on with every other needle. Now we're adding in cylinder needles. Okay, and now I will add those stitches in. So can you see what I'm doing? Can you see the stitch that I'm...
Let me get real close.
Okay. Of course, I'm doing it with my right hand so you guys, my fingers won't be in the shot, so I'm fumbling a little bit. So I'm taking the bar of the neighboring stitch and crossing it over and hanging it on the bare needle. And I do have my heel spring engaged. Okay. It's nice because those bars are a different color. Okay, and we have 2 more. Okay, now I still have my heel spring engaged. I'm going to knit 1 row with the heel spring engaged. Now I'm going to disengage my heel spring. I've got the heel spring engaged to make it tighter and draw it closer together at the top. Now I have to set my river dial into the machine. I still have to worry about the fin and the pin and make sure that I get the fin on the correct side of the pin, so that when I crank forward, it has something to push against. Okay, then I'm going to come back over here and I have adjusted, this is half pitch. I have adjusted this machine already. Now, if I'm doing this on a 36 river dial, I do this with all of the cylinder needles. If you were doing this with a 72 river dial, you would use every other needle. Okay, now you'll notice that it wants to flop back, and if it flops back and starts knitting right here, that's going to make a big mess. Okay, so when I go to crank forward, I have to be very careful. Sorry about that, I bet I just put my hand right in the shot. When I go to crank forward, oops, I have to be sure that my river dial is in the right position. Okay? Especially if you're working with a 72 slot dial. That is like the key step in this whole process. When I put my river needles in, I am double checking and triple checking that my latches are open. But this is a great first ribbing project because if you drop a stitch, it doesn't matter. Now I'm ready to crank forward, so I'm going to hold the dial against the fin as I crank these first few stitches. Once they are anchored, then I can let go. I don't have to worry about that anymore. But that holding that dial against the fin and the pin is super duper important.
Okay, Margaret Briggs, found the feet a bit late. Is tension as loose as possible?
No, ma'am, the tension is not as loose as possible. At the beginning, we talked about it took me 5 tries in order to get a hat small enough to fit around the head. Now, this is just a little looser than normal sock tension on this machine.
Oh, Dorinda says excellent camera work, Sue.
Well, Sue is excellent at anything she does.
That's funny.
Up to and including making me a nice little spot to do this demo. Okay, now then, I'm going to continue cranking forward. I've disengaged my heel spring. You remember that river needle I dropped on the floor? Let me get it. It's where I keep everything. Okay.
Sylvia Marks, hey cuz, I love you.
Well, hey, cuz. All right, now, let's see, we've gone about how many rows? 4? And we're gonna go about between 200 and 225 rows.
Myra wants to see a close-up of the needles.
Okay, this is knitting at half pitch. See how the rubber needle is coming out over the fin instead of over the slot. Okay? Half pitch, and I don't know why they call it that. That's the name it has always been called since I've been knitting, is where you knit with all of the cylinder needles and you add rubber needles. Okay? So this time we're knitting with all of the cylinder needles and all of the rubber needles. So what's that? 72 plus 36, 108.
Great close-up.
We're using an Apple iPhone for the camera.
Even details like lemonade tablecloth.
Well, and look at this. I have a lemonade jug and homemade lemonade. I'm telling you, people take care of me.
How much stem weight?
How much stem weight? That many. I don't know the actual weight.
Ron is eating his heart out.
No kidding.
Can a hat be made without a ribber?
Yeah, they call those baby hats.
What kind of row counter?
What kind of row counter? Yeah, Sue, you answer that question. Got a rubber needle sticking over here.
It's the row counter.
That's the row counter. See, this little thing has been put, it's an addition to the yarn carrier bar, and then it whacks that thing. The only drawback to this counter.
How many weights again? They said it was out of the frame.
Okay, here. That's how many weights I'm using. I don't know what it weighs specifically.
Okay. So when you put your rubber needles in, you didn't have to put the yarn on the needles before cranking?
No, I did not. And the reason I didn't is because I am just making a stitch. And the reason I'm making a stitch is because we're going to drop all these rubber needles. See, here's where, because when I drop the rubber needle, this is what's going to make the hat be able to fit the size, an adult head. We'll see more about that when we get this going further. Now, the reason I like this as a beginning ribbing project, because if I drop a needle, it's okay. Because I'm just going to run all these stitches anyway. Okay? You just open that latch back up and keep going.
I missed it. Do you have to change something on the machine or ribber before cranking to put into half pitch?
On this type of machine, there's a knob down here that you screw, and there's an arm on the inside. Let's see the knob. The knob is right here, and there's an arm on the inside. Adjustable. There's an arm on the inside. It's where the fin is, or the pin is, okay? And it's adjustable, and when you screw that in or out, it moves the rubber dial. And that's how you set it to half pitch, okay? While I have the camera, I'm going to show you, this is the tension. Now, you see the red dot? That's where Sue normally knits her socks. But she knits with the heel spring on, so I'm knitting looser. Why not just do a mock rib? It wouldn't be stretchy. Okay. Now I'm going to hand the camera back to Sue. We're going to keep going. I've got a sticky needle right here, so I'm going to just put that one to the side. Get another rubber needle.
What about on the Erlbacher?
You adjust the fin underneath the rubber dial. Well, Sue, well, here it is. Now I have this bent rod buckle because my weight was hitting the ground. Gonna install it. Okay.
We hit 200.
All right. If you're just joining us, just now finding us on Facebook, thanks for tuning in. We're using a 72 cylinder with 36 rubber needles, and we're knitting at half pitch, which means that the rubber needles are coming out over the fin rather than over a slot, so that we're knitting with 108 needles.
And tell them what you're making again.
We're making a hat that fits an adult size head. Okay. Oh, better look and see where I am. I'm at 115.
Can the LT150 do this?
I don't have any idea, but I would assume that it is adjustable, that you could do it.
Okay, somebody wants to see the bent rod buckle.
Okay.
They're probably going to want to see how you use it.
Yeah.
You want me to
And
come?
I'm not real good at it. Because I'm left-handed and I do everything backwards. Yeah. Alright, right side up?
Yeah.
Like that.
Okay.
Come over here.
Okay.
Look, there's where I dropped that stitch. Alright. Gonna put it,
Roll it forward. Yeah.
wait, like this?
No.
Like this?
Uh-huh.
Are you sure?
Uh-huh. Now roll it forward. No, towards me.
Towards you.
Just roll it over. Now hang the buckle.
Now hang
Or now hang the
the
weights.
weights. Okay. I didn't hate it. This is why we sit in an unladylike position. So we don't drop this stuff on our toes. All right.
Got it?
Got it.
Okay.
There it is.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm making them sick moving around. Really enjoying this. Jamie, you were good, even if it's backwards.
It's always backwards when you're talking to me.
Where do you get one of those?
Where do you get one of those? Well, that one came from Fred Houck, but I do believe that Dave Lord sells them. Somebody look that up and make sure that he sells those on Chambord.
Love that the yarn matches your shoes.
Heck yeah, the yarn matches my shoes. Let's see, we're at 182. And I'm going to go to 200.
Is that a new yarn?
Huh?
Is that a new yarn?
No, it's yarn that I got and dyed in order to do this project. I don't know if you've ever seen me at a Crankin. A lot of times I have dyed yarn for sale. It's hard because I never dye two yarns the same color, two skeins the same color. I don't like that. I get bored. So I don't ever.
How much yarn per hat?
Almost 100 grams. This is what I have left from 100 grams. Okay, I'm at 200. So now what I'm gonna do is drop all these river stitches.
Do you need to go slowly when you're cranking?
Well, if you're new at it, yes, you need to go slowly. I have made, this is my 5th hat this weekend, so I was confident that all my river needles would open, that they were all working, so I could go a little faster. All I'm doing is taking these river needles out because I'm not transferring stitches. We are going to run all these stitches. Now, the reason we don't do a mock rib on a hat like this is that if you just leave a needle out, you don't get as much distance. Because what we're having to do is make 72 stitches fit around an adult head, you've got to have quite a lot of room in between those stitches. Or you've got to have thicker than worsted weight yarn. So I think worsted weight yarn you knit 84 stitches. And I don't think you could get a circular knitting machine with this size. Okay, so now be ready to show inside. You can see that those stitches are just running like the pantyhose. Can you see them? Almost. So we're dropping all those stitches, and that creates more space in between them so that we can fit this hat around a head. Now, since I have all my needles off and I'm going to take it back to the other end where we gather it up, I'm going to engage my heel spring. The reason I'm doing that is so that it gathers, it draws it up a little bit tighter. I'm going to knit 2 rows. Then I'm going to transfer every other needle to its neighbor and knit 2 more rows.
And this is fingering weight yarn?
This is fingering weight yarn. It is sock weight. I think there's 430 yards per 100 grams on this yarn.
Usually about 460.
Okay.
Somewhere around there.
So this time I'm transferring because I don't want to run these stitches too or to have a fishnet hat. Get it?
We're at 210.
All right.
Pete's watching.
Okay.
What yarn for us in the UK?
You would use something from Color Mart.
Jamie, is this pattern on CSM Supplies?
No, ma'am, it is not. It is available from Jenny Dieters, who was scheduled to teach this at several Crankins that have been canceled. On Facebook, she's under Jennifer L. Dieters, D-E-T-E-R-S. Now, remember how I said you stop at 6 o'clock, work these needles, you stop at midnight and work these needles? Apparently you can take my advice because I'm not using it. She got that one.
We have so much fun.
Yeah, we do. Thank you, Sue, for being patient and being my camera person.
Somebody has to babysit you.
This is true because I'm not safe by myself.
Suzanne says, do as I say, not as I do. Hee hee.
Exactly. You can tell I was raised in a German house because that was like a family motto. All right.
Now they're thanking me for babysitting you.
All right, 2 more rows. And this hat, let's go one more. This hat is in the books. I'm going to change yarn on this needle right here, so I'm going to give myself a long tail.
Okay, what kind of yarn did you use again?
Fingering weight sock yarn that I dyed myself using the technique that Amy taught this morning on the virtual Crankin, the hand-painted yarn technique. Then I'm going to bring in my waste yarn. I need about 15 rows, and we'll take it off. Okay, we'll crank forward.
Eric says your voice is so relaxing.
Thanks. I bet my husband doesn't say the same thing. All right, now let's take this baby off the machine and get a good look at it. Come on, my weights over here. All right. So remember where we started running those stitches? First of all, look how nice and tight that is at the top because we have to draw those 36 stitches together in order to finish off the hat. So look at what engaging the heel spring does. It just kind of pulls it together nicely. Okay? So now, I like to do this watching TV. What I'm going to do is make all these stitches run. Okay? And that's what gives us our width. Let me try to get them. That's what gives us the ability to fit this hat on an adult head. And this size will fit on Sue's husband's head. He's a dude. Well, I mean, you got to clarify these things. Okay? So anyway, this is the width that we get when we run those stitches. You can see this is never going to fit around an adult head. Okay? So we just go ahead and run all these stitches. And it's really kind of satisfying. I like to do it. I didn't mean that ugly or anything.
It's just funny.
Okay, good.
Maureen Newell says you two crack me up.
We crack ourselves up too. All right, so that's how that's going to go. Now, I have one over here that I already ran the stitches. Okay, oh, it looks real similar to that one too, doesn't it?
Is there a link to the written pattern?
No, you're going to have to go to Jennifer Dieter's Facebook page and ask her for the pattern, or else watch this again and take notes. Okay, but the thing of it is, what I want you to do is make your own pattern for this. I'm showing you the technique, but each machine is different, okay?
So Chris Decius wants to know 200 rows. So I'd
Ish.
start there. Yeah.
Start there. Sometimes on one of my machines at home, I like 225 rows. Okay, so here's where both yarns knitted on that needle right there. So I'm going to start, and I'm just going to gather all these stitches. Okay, and like a ding dong, I forgot to leave myself a nice long tail on the top half or at the beginning of the project. Because I was trying so hard to remember to tell you everything. Let's see, now it became the same color as the waste yarn. It's the only thing I don't like about the yarn that I dye. I always dye bright colors. And it's the same colors as my waste yarn.
Donna wants to know, so running stitches without the ribbon won't make it wider?
Nope. Well, running stitches without the ribbon will make it wider, but how are you going to get less than 72 stitches of sock yarn to fit around a head? I think.
What brand of dye do you use?
I use the acid dyes from Dharma Trading because I use their dyes for tie-dyeing, and I tie-dyed before I sock knit. So I just use their dyes because I'm used to dealing with them. But that Pro Chem from Maine, they have some wonderful colors. Okay, I'm just going to pull out my waste yarn. Apparently I got it stuck. There we go. Make sure that I have all my stitches caught. Okay, and gather that together. Stick my hand down in there. Make sure. I like Zoom better because then I can hear background music. So I've got all those stitches. I'm going to pull that up tight. And on this end, I'm going to go ahead and sew it down. Sew it closed. Then I'm going to hide the tail. And the leg of a stitch. The leg of a row of stitches. Go down and up. And I do the same thing to the other end. I should do that. Then we're going to gather up the stitches at this end, where I remember to leave myself a nice long tail. Okay, now look here, see that? There's where the yarn's coming out, and I have to remember that because that's going to be really hard to see because it's almost the same color as my waste yarn. And when I do this, I want to try my best not to get any of the waste yarn fibers. Now, you can make these hats reversible. Okay, now remember that last stitch.
Joni said if I lived closer, I could put Ron out of a job.
Uh-oh. I dropped it. See there? So it's no longer the color of the waist yarn. There's the end. So I'm going to have a little extra bar in there. But I don't think you'll be able to see it. So now, I can get those tails out of the way. And unravel my yarn. Hey, Sue, you know what I just realized?
What?
I know.
Oh, Siri thought I was talking to her. Uh-oh, looky there. Isn't that pretty? So I skipped a loop. Let's go back and catch it.
Okay, what'd you realize?
We made it through this project and you didn't tell me what I was doing wrong.
You're doing fine.
I know. Okay.
You're just trying to get on my good side after you broke my sewing machine.
Yeah, I am. Alright, so now I'm going to sew this one closed. You could go around that row 2 times, but I don't want to take that time so you guys wouldn't have to watch doing that again. Alright, now I'm not going to hide this tail because I'm going to use it to sew the 2 ends together. So we end up with this job right here. Okay? And in a tricky fashion, if I was doing this for real, I would lay this down and make sure that it was not biasing. I would lay it out straight on a table like so. Then I'm going to push this end of the hat into the top end. The other end. And I would take that long tail and go through both of the layers and sew that together. Okay, which I'll do that off the camera. Okay, so now I can fold that over. And have a hat. How about that? And it's warm. Okay.
It's cute too.
It is cute. But my hair's in my face. I like it. What do you guys think? Thumbs
Looks
up?
good.
Any questions, anybody?
Suzanne's gonna make some later. Too
Okay.
cute. Adele says too cute. Clap, clap, clap from Angela Garcia. Beautiful. Good job, Jamie. Nice.
All right.
Cool.
Glad you guys liked it. Thanks for joining me. You can go back to the Good Karma Farm Crankin page. Right now it's 10 minutes to 2 and I believe the next demo starts at 3 o'clock. So they'll probably have some housekeeping things to tell you guys. And the next demo will be, they'll tell you where to go find that. Okay? I'm Jamie Mayfield. Thanks for joining Sue and I.